If you take how you're feeling and color it out onto a piece of paper using any shape and color that you want, I can tell you what emotion you're feeling and what message your body is trying to get you to pay attention to. I'm Chelsea KK. I'm known as the Inner World Decoder. I've created a tool called Color Mending that is a neuroscience-based coloring tool that teaches you what you're feeling and why you're feeling it in 15 minutes or less. It's not magic. You don't have to talk. You don't have to rehash your past. It's just neuroscience and coloring, baby. I specifically asked community members to send me their colorings and I'll interpret it for them. Thought it would be fun to walk you through how I interpret these colorings. I had a community member send me this coloring with the message, "I'm feeling stuck and questioning my life choices." They said that when they did the body scan, which is the first step of a color mending session, the spot that was making the most noise was right in the middle of their body, right underneath their rib cage. And it also said that the sensation that they were coloring out felt heavy. All of that provides the framework and structure for the rest of the interpretation. Because the sensation that they found is in the middle of their body under their rib cage, that specifically means that we're dealing with issues around the solar plexus. The solar plexus is one of our 7 chakras and specifically has to do with our willpower and will center. When we're working with the solar plexus, especially if it's feeling unbalanced or heavy, it typically means we're dealing with issues related to control and potential insecurity. A side note that I just thought of, because I'm not having a one-on-one conversation with this person when I'm doing read my colorings, I'm literally just going off of the information that they provided me. And in my short form content, I specifically tell them to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. With color mending, after you color, we're just gathering clues for the person to connect the dots. So because I don't have the full context or perspective of the person coloring, I'm going to give some best guesses, especially after coloring with hundreds and hundreds of people over the past 6 years and noticing different patterns, but that doesn't mean maybe it won't resonate with that person. If it doesn't resonate with that person, I tell them to get curious about what about the information that I'm presenting doesn't resonate with them. If it's not that, then what else could it be? Because it's with the curiosity and kind of sitting with the emotion and trying to unpack it that they're going to be able to find what resonates for them and land on the message that their body's trying to get them to see. So typically, when we're talking about the solar plexus, it has to do with like our parasympathetic nervous system, which means that something about what they're thinking about or what they colored about doesn't feel safe. Now, the person who sent over the coloring, they were specifically talking about career choices. So I'm going to ask the person who sent over this coloring to think about what about your career choices makes you feel unsafe and unsettled. I'll give you an example. With color mending, I've had to do a ton of work of being comfortable being perceived by other people. When I actually sat with the discomfort of being perceived by other people, it wasn't that I was nervous about what they would say about me or how they would perceive me or the judgments that they would put on me. It literally was my body's way of trying to get me to see that I am my own worst critic. In order for me to get to the next level of building color mending, I needed to address that because being my own worst critic was keeping me from doing the actions or taking the steps that I knew I needed to do, but was procrastinating to build the business and start generating more revenue. So I would offer a similar thing here. I would start looking at or listing out what are your greatest fears in this career move or in this career change that you're experiencing? What are the beliefs that you're carrying about your career that is preventing you from taking the actions that your intuition or your inner knowing is trying to get you to take? All of that was just based on the sensation that they found during their body scan, not even with their coloring. So let's dive into their coloring. Now that we have thoroughly explored where the sensation was found in your body, let's go ahead and crack open the step-by-step guide. The step-by-step guide has the color chart and the common shapes charts that I've compiled over the past 6 going on 7 years of different patterns that I've seen in people's colorings. Specifically, colors represent emotions and shapes represent what the emotions are about. Now, when I look at this coloring, the thing that stands out to me is the overall shape is a circle. Now, when I look at the shapes charts, and look at circles, it represents how complete or certain something feels. I would guess, based on the information that we just talked about the sensation coming from the solar plexus, that this has to specifically do around how uncertain things are feeling. I would suggest that you would explore different times in your life that felt really uncertain and how you navigated those times. Because chances are there's going to be a belief or an approach that you used during those times that worked really well for you, but your body's trying to say like, hey, we can't use that same approach here. We need to switch it up. But let's go ahead and dive into the colors, because I think the colors are going to give a lot more clarity and context around this. And keep in mind, I'm also labeling these shapes as swirls because you can tell that there were a lot of loop-de-loops or swirls used in the different shapes. Swirls have to do with how much you want something to change. For this, it feels like you do want something to change in your career, but it's feeling blocked. The colors are going to give us that insight into what's feeling blocked or how you're feeling blocked. Let's go ahead and start with the middle purple. The center purple has to do with feeling rebellious. This isn't like a negative connotation. It's more of you're feeling like you're going against what other people may have prescribed as what is good or what is typical for people in your situation. Maybe it's your life situation, your career situation, just some sort of societal construct that you're feeling like you're brushing up against. And that friction or tension is making things feel even more uncertain. So I would actually explore that. If you could identify what are those specific social constructs around where you should be in your life, or what you should be doing, or what your day-to-day should look like, or anything like that, that's going to help you connect the dots. The next thing I want to look at is the orange. Orange is such an interesting color. Orange typically has to do with when you're feeling something and you can't quite determine if it's something that's coming from you or if it's coming from someone else. Like you're carrying someone else's emotions, or you're feeling a certain way because that's just the way that society has trained you to feel. So again, this ties back to the purple and makes an even stronger case for identifying what that purple is about. Let's go ahead and move on to the blue. Blue in this case has to do with feeling depressed. And depressed is in like a lack of energy or motivation to do something or to continue to work on something. Again, has to do with feeling that rebelliousness. For example, if you truly feel like the path that you're going down or the choices that you're making go wildly against everything that you have been taught to keep you safe and to get all your needs met, and you keep operating from those belief systems because that's what feels safe and that's what feels comfortable, but your body's trying to tell you like, hey, we're ready to update these belief systems. We're ready to not hold on to these social constructs, to blaze our own trail, to create a life that works really well for me, or to choose a career that fulfills you in a way that the typical approach would not. If you keep ignoring that information, you're going to get more depressed and have like this lack of wanting to create something or to move forward with something or even to be creative. The last thing I want to look at is the purple on the outside. It's going to have a different interpretation or represent a different emotion than the purple in the middle that represents that rebelliousness. This purple has to do with holding yourself back. Again, it goes back to the solar plexus, right? If your nervous system, if your brain does not feel comfortable going down the path that you're choosing, even if it feels super aligned with you, even if you felt so good making that decision, this is where you're going to find yourself talking yourself out of things, procrastinating things, and not having the discernment to prioritize the things that are actually going to move the needle. I would say the main headline that your coloring is trying to bring to your attention is just to figure out what belief you're holding on to that you could have picked up from family or friends or from your culture or your community or society at large, like the media, and specifically address the beliefs around choosing the career that you've chosen. It's trying to get you to see that so you can update it. And the easiest way to update it is to, one, label it so that you know exactly what you're dealing with. And then two, to deliberately make choices every single day that are going to give your brain and body the evidence that it's safe to move in the direction that you're working towards. If our brain and our whole nervous system doesn't have the evidence that what we're working towards is safe, it's just going to retreat back to what it already knows because it knows it can keep you alive in those conditions. But we're entering unknown territory and blazing a new trail. Your brain and your body are like, we just need to know that this is safe. which I'm guessing you already have an insane amount of self-trust and know that you could carry yourself through almost anything, but it's just helping give those specific experiences to our brain and to our body and to our nervous system to show it that there really is safety and security in the path that you're choosing. And that, my friends, is a read my coloring. The next step is for me to create a short form piece of content talking about the high level message that this person's coloring is bringing to their attention. So be on the lookout for that. And if you want to send me your coloring to interpret, yes, it is free. There's a link in the description to these instructions that will tell you how. Thanks, y'all.